Okay, Fans Pulse Lap 2 already on episode 7. Once again, you have voted, we have listened, and we're going to do another club spotlight. The last few weeks we've began to spotlight some clubs. A difficult thing to do in just 10 or 15 minutes, but we'll do our best to pick over the best bits of this week's subject, the Poole Pirates. I think fair to say a truly historic club, founded in 1948, which is just a little bit before my time. I won't embarrass any of my guests by checking with them, but still the Poole Pirates operate at the very same Wimborne Road Stadium that they were founded in all those years ago. Arguably, although Poole fans would say there is no argument to be had, the most successful club side in British Speedway. I'm not sure how they rank against other nations, Poland for example, but fair to say the Pirates, at whatever level, Premiership, Championship, as they've been over the years, almost annually seem to attract some success. In their existence, they have landed 14 league titles across the top 2 divisions and some 10 knockout cups. So in anyone's language, in any sport, that's not a bad haul of silverware, and I've missed out a lot of other trophies, individual and team. Gents, before we talk about some of the notable riders, etc., Crabby, I'll ask you first to jump in. So the mere mention of Poole Pirates, Crabby, based on memories or your own sentiment, what does that mean to you?
Poole's always been run very professional, I think. Certainly, Matt Ford has taken it towards another level. But, you've also got to look at why aren't they in the first division? They get big crowds, I would say. I don't know. Cami will know better than I do. Possibly the biggest crowd in the division. Is that right, Cami? I'm not sure.
Absolutely.
But they cannot afford to race in the first division. Very professional, very business-like. And maybe that's why it's a success, because they had to drop out the first division because of the expense of it all, and it wasn't paid. Matt Ford took the decision to drop, and just being as successful in the second division as the first. It's just possibly as well, isn't it? Holiday town. There's no big football clubs there. It's just take the crowd away. Not in Poole, I don't think. So maybe got a bit of a captive audience, really. Nothing else goes on maybe in Poole. I don't know. But there's no big football team there, is there?
No.
I think you've got Bournemouth not so many strides away from Poole, but I take your point, Nigel. They've been there a long time. I think they get some good support from the local press, etc. Everyone in Dorset knows about the Poole Pirates. Stuart Robson, I don't think that's ever been one of your clubs, Stuart Robson. But what's your own experience / memories of having to ride at Wimborne Road?
Good and bad. Good meetings, bad meetings. Good journeys there, bad journeys there. I used to quite often get stuck in the traffic around Ringwood on the A31, and you'd think, "Oh, am I going to get there on time?" And you're stuck there because you don't know what's holding it up, if there's an accident or whatever. But yeah, always good. I used to enjoy going there. It was always a good club to go to. The track was most of the time pretty good. I didn't mind a few bumps on a track, A few bumps generally made it a bit more difficult for everyone else, and even the playing field a bit. And I didn't mind that. So now and again, there was a couple of bumps, especially going into the third bend. And I used to get a little bit of a sticky patch there going in. It used to give you a good push into the corner and catch you out if you weren't ready for it. And I used to enjoy it. It was always good, like I say. Good people down there, friendly, very, very well run club, like Nigel said there. And like you just said, very, very successful club. They are extremely good at what they do, and that is promoting Speedway and putting a good team on and winning silverware.
And you've got to admire that capability. Cami, I appreciate you're in direct opposition to Poole, and you have been for a number of seasons now. But I'm sure you're almost an honest guy, Cami. I'm sure you must take your hat off and acknowledge that year on year, decade on decade, Poole continue to have that success.
totally, and they thrive for the success. They're driven. But you know, when Nigel touched on it, Poole's quite an area that captures a captive market for speedway. I mean, I'm lucky I fly to Bristol and hire a car, but that drive from Bristol to Poole, that 2 hour drive, I love driving. It's one of the hardest drives because it's through towns and villages, and it's difficult to get there. So I mean, they have got an audience there, but come back to the actual club, they're so well run. I mean, when they dropped back to Championship, Peter and I and Alan Dick had a conversation that night. I can remember it saying, you know, we've now got another major competitor in our league. You know, that's going to be the one we're aiming at, and it's proved to be the case. But you know, we try hard to compete with them, but they're a club that's built on success, and it's, you know, it's when you get a club rolling like that, you know, you see it in football with Man City for many years and Man United before that. When clubs are used to success begins to come, you know, a bit easier to them because they've got a way of doing that, and it takes teams a bit. It's also a strange circuit as well. I mean, you guys ride it. I don't ride it, obviously, but I hear a lot of riders talking about it. It's a track you can get used to quite easily, or it's quite a tricky track. But you know, as far as a club goes, they're a massive competition to us, and no matter what league they were in, they would be exactly the same. But again, Nigel touched the point that, you know, they dropped back into the Championship because maybe they weren't making the money in the Premiership, and that kind of tells its own story about Speedway, because there's just not enough money in Speedway, unfortunately.
So Stuart, I wonder, you know, from a rider's perspective, I know you were never a Poole rider, but you know, within the sport, you know, if Poole, I would imagine, are one of those clubs that if they came calling, if you had a call from Neil Middlewich or Matt Ford or Dan Ford, you're going to take the call, right? Because Poole are one of those clubs that riders, I would imagine, must be most attracted to riding for.
Well, absolutely, yeah. You know, it's the success they've had. It's you know, you want to be part of it. You know they're going to win something. So if you ever get the chance, you know, to take that club, I would have took it personally, depending obviously on the circumstances around it. When I was in my Coventry day, I probably wouldn't have, to be honest, because I enjoyed myself so much in my time at Coventry. It was great. But there was great rivalry between Coventry and Poole for a long time as well there. But yeah, I mean, after I left Coventry, I had some good runs, but it would have been nice to have had a call and done a season there. And because I know I rode for a lot of clubs. A lot of the clubs didn't win silverware when I was with them. We did now again, we won a bit, but it would have been nice to have won more, you know.
Nigel, thinking back to, you know, your riding days, Wimborne Road was a different track, right? Well, same venue, same stadium, but the track construct was a much narrower track from memory, right?
Yeah, and like we said before, it was a bit square as well. They took the corners in again, and Poole made it a bit wider and a better racetrack, I think. But just going back onto what you were saying before, Derek, I think one man who maybe doesn't get as much credit for it as he should, Neil Middlewich, great guy, and everybody likes Neil. He always seems to get the team going, but you're always waiting. Cami will take me up on this one. You're always waiting for Poole to turn out a team, and you can look at the beginning of the season and think, they might have a bit of a difficult season, but they seem to. Neil gets the best out of the men, and on what could be a difficult season on paper, they're up there again winning it, you know, with a chance of winning everything. They just, I think success breeds success, doesn't it? I know when I was at Glasgow, nobody wants to let the team down. You know, you've got to try and perform at your best every night, because you don't want to let your team, your supporters down, and I think it drags you along. And that's what's happened at Poole year in, year out. Everybody just gets dragged along by the Poole scenario.
Yeah, I think, Nigel, you know, it's happened so many times over the years that Poole have been successful season after season in some shape or form, that there's got to be something to that. So whether it's the Middleditch factor, I don't know, or the Ford factor, but riders just appear to want to ride for that club, and they seem to recognise that, given the history the club's got, that they've got to uphold that to some extent. Cami, I was just thinking about some of the some of the riders, some of the more notable riders perhaps, and again, as I always say when we do a club spotlight, how do you do justice to a whole 80, 90 year history, but just to call out some of the riders, and just listen to this for a list. So you've got Ken and Neil Middleditch as riders, Malcolm Simmons, Craig Boyce, Lee Adams, Alan Rossiter, Jason Crump, Lee Richardson, Gary Havelock, Darcy Ward, Chris Holder, I'm nearly there, Mark Laram, Antonio Lindback, Ryan Sullivan, Davey Watt, Magic Janowski, Nicky Pedersen, to name but a few pool riders down the years. I mean,
the world champions there, Derek.
Absolutely. And pool fans, listen, you work with the cards that you're dealt with in life, right? And I wouldn't change this for anything. But I've been born in this part of the world. I've been a Glasgow fan over the years. There was many lean years as a Glasgow fan, and that's perhaps not been the case so much down in Dorset. So, pool fans, if you're watching, I'd be interested in your views on this. But you've probably been spoiled over the years, given some of those riders and some of those successes that we've been alluding to, versus the likes of me, or the Berwick fans, or maybe even Edinburgh fans, who have had to be very patient to get some success come our way. But Cami, we talked to you mentioned earlier, Cami, I know you don't ride the bikes, but I too have heard from some riders. I don't mean Glasgow riders necessarily, who find the pool track quite difficult. And I don't know if there's anything in the track prep or the material in that part of the country that makes it more of a challenge for visiting riders. But even if that is the case, you don't win leagues only at home, right? You've still got to be able to do the job on the road, and Poole consistently seem to be able to do that too.
100%, but I think they have a home track advantage of some sort, as the boys will agree. And I think when they build their teams, Nigel's quite right. You look at the Poole team at the start of the season, you think, they might not be the top team, but they always get right to the finals or win it or whatever. And I think that's based on the fact that the riders then get used to riding their own track, get some good results, get some momentum built up, get some confidence, and when they go away from home, they can up their game a bit easier because they're riding used to with the mentality of winning all the time. I think that definitely helps. But Poole themselves they're a unique club, and even when we won the championship down there against them in 2023, so many of their fans came up and congratulated us, and their management were fabulous. And it's one of the most friendly clubs. When we go down with Glasgow, when I take the team down with Glasgow, we're always made feel very welcome there. Usually get beaten right enough, which isn't very good, but we're always made feel very welcome, and that's something that not a lot of clubs do. Somerset used to be the same, Redcar the same, to name but a few. Edinburgh good as well. We've got to keep this friendly rivalry going as well, and I think that's very important. We always, Derek, we always try and welcome teams to our place, and Poole do that very well. They maybe lull you into a false sense of security. I don't know. Maybe that's the secret. I don't know. But they're a club to aim for. They are the ones that we all look at, and we try and compete with them. And the last few years we've done okay, but it's difficult because they're always there pushing forward and pushing the level up. So again, it'll be the same this season. People say the Poole team don't look good this season, but I don't go for that at all. And they'll be there or thereabouts at the end of the season. I can be sure of it.
They are viewers, so a bit of a spotlight on Poole Pirates. Quite a glowing report, I'm sure you'll agree, across the piece. And as I've mentioned, Poole fans, if you're out there, drop us a note. Let us know your opinions of our views about your club. I do think that you're very fortunate to have been born or live in that part of the world. Success breeds success, and no doubt the Pirates are going to be in the thick of the chase for silverware in this season's championship. But Poole fans, good luck to you, and at least until the playoffs. And again, do let us know your thoughts on anything Speedway. Okay, time to pick up some of your messages submitted over the past week. If you haven't yet submitted any messages, bear in mind you can do so through any of our social media accounts. You'll see the account details circulating the screen throughout this podcast. Okay, first up this week, thank you to Paul Capaldi from Galashiels in the lovely Borders area of Scotland/England. And Paul writes, legendary hardman around TD15. Is that the postcode of Sheffield Park? was the mighty Michael Makowski, of course, who we do remember, one of the Czech trio who frequented and graced the Bandits race jacket in the early noughties from memory. And off track, so quiet. Yeah, a bit of a force on track. And Paul writes that Mikael was quite the quiet man off track. Mark Courtney was even more entertainment off the track than on it. I can imagine, Paul. I'm sure you've got a few stories to share on some of those memories around the Bandit scene. Thanks, Paul, for taking time to write in, and thanks for your comments submitted on YouTube. Next up, talking about YouTube, Greg Branson, 4620. I'm sure that's no relevance to your year of birth, Greg. Commented on YouTube. I must admit, I do miss the push and shove and confrontation in the pits. It added a bit of tension when the riders met again in later heats, and that's with reference, of course, to a discussion last week. We're talking about hard men and some of the off-track or post-race shenanigans that riders sometimes used to get up to, which is a little bit more frowned on these days. But I don't think you would find too many Speedway supporters, Greg, who would disagree. But a little bit more push and shove, as you put it. And hope everything's good with you down under in sunny Melbourne. Thanks for keeping across 360 Speedway, Greg. Still on YouTube, Lol here. Now there's the name, Lawrence here. Good evening to you, Lawrence here. Thank you for being across 360 Speedway. Really good to hear from you on YouTube. And Lawrence has done a bit of analysis on that British final that we talked about and showcased a couple of episodes ago. 17 passes, according to Lawrence. 17 passes. Every rider was last at one point, and every rider led at one point. Probably the best 60 seconds of Speedway ever. And Lawrence, listen, you were aboard a bike for a number of years, and you know firsthand what it takes to produce that quality of race action. So credit to you, Lawrence, for doing the stats for us. 17 passes. Beat that, everyone. If you can find a race on YouTube that's got more than 17 passes, we'd love to see it. Thank you, Lawrence. And next up, again on YouTube, Paul Sowney, 771. Paul, who I think is Hertfordshire based, if I remember correctly, a Hackney Kestrels fan of yesteryear. And Paul has identified Thorin Sjoston, Swedish international, as a spectacular rider. Seen him in the back end of his career, I presume with the Aces, perhaps, not sure. But the move from Bellevue onto Birmingham did him no favours. So clearly towards the end of Shorin's career, which I'd imagine must be talking about 70s, right? Mid to late 70s, perhaps. A good friend of mine who is a Bellevue Ace fanatic, Tony Webb, good evening to you. I know holds Soren in high esteem and quite happily identifies Soren as Tony's favourite ever rider. So listen, thanks for taking time to submit your comments, in this case via YouTube and also from WhatsApp. And if you've just read any comment and you thought, well, I was going to say that, then why don't you? Why don't you step forward, take a couple of minutes, that's all it would take, comment on a Facebook post of 360, send us a message through WhatsApp, 0333 772 4046.